Cool, top man. Yeah, I mean, I guess the first place to start really is probably now and what you're up to, because obviously sporting director at Altrincham. How did that all come about from sort of the end of your playing career to maybe where you are now?
I had a short time out kind of after, obviously my playing career ended with a leg break at Bolton, but obviously I've been featured in every league in England, right the way through from when I was on loan at Carlisle, from Oldham, Shrewsbury, Colchester, kind of touching on each league, then joining Norwich in the Championship and obviously getting promoted and playing in the Premier League. It's given me quite a unique insight to different practices and different going-ons and different levels of professionalism, I suppose, and learned different ways of playing and different ways of running organisations. So I just felt it kind of just left me best placed, really, to kind of utilise my knowledge and my kind of experience that I've gone through, good and bad, and kind of implement them myself. So I decided to join a masters of sporting directorship under VSI, and that kind of led me back on the football pathway. Obviously, a lot of contacts in the game. I know a lot of different people through being involved in sort of what you call kind of high performance elite sport, and it's kind of led me towards that kind of director of football, sporting directorship kind of pathway, and it's just where I feel comfortable, feel best placed to kind of advise. From obviously being on the pitch to being in the boardroom, it just really kind of suits my style and my kind of character to get around there. So it's kind of led me. I'm just currently based in the northwest in Cheshire, so it's just led me to kind of go down to Altrincham, which is near enough my local club, and they were in need of a sporting director, and it's kind of gone from strength to strength since then, really. So we're having a good season, and it's just obviously I love sport, love football, and it's sort of brought me to being director of football and loving it.
How quick was that decision, sort of post-retirement, to where you've got to now? Was it something that immediately when you retired, it was right, brilliant, I want to get back in, and here's how I want to get back in, or is it something that's probably evolved a little bit more slowly?
It was something where I wanted to take my time outside of football. I think to really give myself a bit better rounded perspective. I think when you're in football, especially when you play in football, I do think it served me well to step outside of the football world, so to speak, and see it from different avenues. I think that's what leaves me best placed now to be able to speak to investors and directors, board members, chairmen, and give that kind of balanced view rather than coming straight from a playing career or straight from a coaching career, and you've got just that one view of the kind of the world of football, of how to utilise your investment and how to run a football club. So I've sort of took my time, really, kind of leaned on a few people that I respect within the game that have given me the time of day. I mean, my recent few months even, I've managed to have a sit-down meeting with Michael Edwards, who's head of global football at FSG. He was kind enough to sit down with me and have a chat in his office. So that was really, really helpful of him. He's a local here in Altrincham. Paul Mitchell, who I know through a few different contacts, has been able to speak to me on the phone, give me some advice. Dougie Friedman, and had a Zoom call with him last week, again able to tap into that advice, and then sort of other Michael Emenalo as well has been on the phone to me, and sort of swapping messages in terms of just how we see the landscape of football, and it's just really good to be able to. I think someone said to me, it's probably because that your career's got you those contacts, really. So it's like a life's work. I don't think people realise the sacrifice you make to be a footballer, never mind just to be a footballer at National League level, never mind the sacrifice needed to be a Premier League player. And that kind of body of work that I've done helps open doors to these people who, for me, are best in class at what they do. So I draw on their experiences, tap into sort of their advice and try and utilise it in my own way. Still only 39 and, one of the youngest sporting directors out there, but still I think I've got a wealth of knowledge both in the game and with speaking to them, just drawing on their experience really, that leaves me kind of well placed to put these professional practices in for the club that I'm working for.
Yeah, it's an interesting role, isn't it? Because you've clearly got now, obviously, the players or former players that are moving into it. I was speaking to Ryan Bennett a few months ago, who's looking to go into something very similar. And obviously then you've got the guys, Norwich had one in Stuart Webber. They've got one now in Ben Napper, who maybe have done it more sort of on a non-playing basis. So, I mean, for you, is that sort of playing element that you can add to the role something that you see as a real strength sort of moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very much of the view that it's horses for courses. It depends what you like as a board of directors. The right fit for the right club, I think, is definitely just as a player. You sometimes find the right fit for the right club, as I kind of did really at Norwich. It's a good fit. You get a good feel, a good vibe of the place, and you feel wanted. And can you utilise your strengths while you're there? I think it's the same as a sporting director. It's very much in terms of what is the project going in, what are you aiming to achieve, and how do your attributes kind of fit? Well, I definitely see one of my main strengths is that I was that person. I have experience of being these players and knowing what it's like to be there on the pitch, which I think is definitely a huge strength of mine. And I've obviously risen in the trajectory to the kind of top of my game in terms of to the Premier League. So I think that rounded view is definitely one of my strengths really. But again, different people will offer different backgrounds, and I think that's what's the beauty of the role really, is it depends what you like, depends as a chairman or a board of directors and owners what you go for. And I think in some ways, utilising Scott, technical director, sporting director, how you see fit. I see a lot of things over in Germany where the sporting director is more pitch side. I wouldn't be averse to going pitch side. It's not something I've raised currently, but I think, if you feel like you can help and move a little closer, then, as long as you've got that trust with your manager and that trust which is built up over time, it's something I'm doing here with my manager, building that trust. It's got to go both ways, and we're in a good place where I leave him to pick his team, don't get involved in that whatsoever. I'm here if he wants a sounding board for football advice. But he's, my current manager's been here 8 years. He knows I'm here if he needs me. If not, I'm working on a longer term plan for the football club and working in a collaborative way, which I think you've got to be a bit chameleon like and be able to move between the board and pitch side, and offer kind of a balanced view to plan forward and not give knee jerk reactions. It's more 6 weeks and 6 months in advance than it is week to week, and getting really involved in the what's happening in the next game. That's very much for the players and the manager to be planning for the next game. It's very much I see what's happening in 6 months for the football club. Where can we get our strategy to where we can improve in 6 months and bring in some of the practices that I know well from my time working in high performance and elite sport.
Yes, it's an interesting dynamic that you mentioned there, because clearly, as you say, Phil Parkinson's been there for a long time, done a brilliant job over a long period of time. Is you going in there sort of part of the sort of professionalisation process of the club? In terms of me coming in, before I'd gone in as the director of football here, I had a meeting with Phil Parkinson, and I was. Part of the reason where I was quite comfortable to go in was to know that the club hadn't swapped and changed managers year on year. It was stable. Recently had a lot of investment into the club with people that are largely connected to the local area. So with that local investment, community vibe in and around the place, with the ability that I think the club can be a league club, utilising that investment strategically and really, using the best of our resources, and logistically where we are in England does help. Utilising my contacts within clubs that are higher up the footballing pyramid, I think we can achieve league status, and that's something that really was an aim of mine, and that's why it's important no matter what club is looking for a sporting director. I think it's really important to understand
what the aims are, what the expectation is, and what the budget is, and how to really can you marry all that together and work well with the manager, which I've managed to do. Been delighted how I've worked with the manager and Neil Sorbel, who's the assistant. Been delighted with that, because I think when someone has been there for a long amount of time and things have been done in a certain way, it's not going to change overnight. You're going to have discussions with the manager and with the board about how I best see it moving forward, and worked together on that in order to improve. And thankfully, in Phil Parkinson, I've got a manager that is looking to improve himself, and that's what you need. You need players that want to improve and continue to grow, and managers that want to continue to grow. So hopefully that's the plan to do it together.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier some of the conversations that you've had and some of the connections you've had. Given your Norwich connection, did you manage to sort of speak to like a Stuart Webber or Ben Napper at any stage, or has it sort of been other areas that you've got?
Yeah, I'd spoke. Straight to. Who did I speak to first? Declan Rudd, I think, was one of the ones that came out. Obviously, being within kind of goalkeeper, and obviously Adams as well. Spoke to him, and it was just can we don't just go on my direct contacts. We will get say for example, if I'm looking for a player, there'll be a number of players, number of clubs pitching, number of agents pitching a different player, and then I'll sit down with the manager, go through the list of who we've got, who's best in class for that position. So it won't be the fact that it's just myself and I've got a player here. I'll definitely kind of run them through the mill, if you want, in terms of look, it could be that I spoke to Neil Adams at Norwich, it could be that I spoke to James Beat at Preston, or there's different ones that come up, so there'll be a number of them, and then we'll go through what's the right fit for our football club. And as it's happened, we had a list of about 6 goalkeepers who we wanted to bring in that are young and can improve, and Caleb Anson was the top one on that list. So the manager I send a list to him, he sends a list to me, we collaborate, and the manager says, I think this one's the best one. I think, yep, I agree. Let's get him in, and he can improve with us. And all part of being young, we've done it with Preston, we've done it with Blackburn, we're now doing it with Norwich. It's definitely something I want to push the club towards, utilising these young players and blooding them if they're good enough, they're old enough. And I think that's a way forward for my football club. And I think it's use those dynamic, players that are suited to the modern game, really.
Yeah, and on Caleb specifically, I mean, how's he done since he's come in? Like you say, it's clearly a really thorough recruitment process. Are you pleased with sort of how he's adapted and how he's taken?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for his first loan to come in and have started the games that he has done. I mean, he's started. I think we've only lost one game with Caleb in goal. It's a learning process for him to also learn off the older, more experienced goalkeeper in Rob Lainton, who we've got here with us. He's away from home. He's staying in a new place. I know what it's like to travel at that age. I did it when I went to Carlisle at 19. He's doing it going from Norwich up here to the northwest, so everything's new for him. He's been in a team of the week already. Within his first 4 or 5 games, he's been in team of the week, and he's seen how it's really done with a paying crowd. He's been at Oldham. He's we've got a big, huge game against Barnet, top of the league. We know we're in and around the playoffs, so it's a great experience for him. And this is how the loan market can be utilised, really, for the benefit of the football club that I'm working for, but also for the benefit of the loanee and their personal development. And I know Declan Rudd's very happy with him to go and get personal development, and then in essence better for Norwich City as well. So I think everyone's a winning party in it when you do a loan such as this one. The player improves, the parent club gets to see how their player does and reacts in different environments, and then obviously the club that's loaning him utilise that player that they possibly can't afford, and utilise them to play and gain experience with their club. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, just obviously last one on him, and then we'll go to sort of your experiences at Norwich. I mean, 19 years of age, to be in the National League as a goalkeeper, that feels particularly like an impressive standard to walk into, as you say, for your first loan. It's goalkeepers can sometimes.
I think that's testament to the kind of recruitment process that I utilise. Really, is I'll speak to a lot of people that have worked with different players, and when the same name comes up from different people that you trust in the game, and Caleb's one of them. I think he's got a real bright future down at Norwich. I think this is just part of his process in terms of seeing what it's like, learning every game he plays. Even the part of coming in the team, coming out of the team, fighting for his place. He's going to understand that when you get that shirt, you need to fight to keep it. And I think that's one of the major things for such a young keeper is to fight for that shirt and keep it. And that's why I wanted him here to the end of the season to continue to do that. And I'm sure he'll come back to Norwich a much better player and hopefully hold us in good stead towards the end of the season where we're fighting for the playoff place.
Definitely. On to you there. I can't believe when I was looking it up earlier that it's 15 years ago you signed for Norwich City, January 2010. In terms of obviously it's joining permanently from Colchester. How do you reflect? Clearly it was a wonderful spell for everyone involved. But how do you reflect on it sort of now, later down the line and post career and stuff like that?
Yeah, really. I was really. The best way I can describe Norwich was it was a really good fit for me at the time. Huge club, got a lot of time for Norwich. I do want to return at some point in my kind of post football career because it was that much of a good time for myself personally, and real got a soft spot for the whole of Norwich really. So really do look forward to hopefully returning at some point down to Norwich. It was just an amazing time of, again, things I'll implement now as a sporting director here in terms of good people working hard for each other. And look, we weren't the not to do us a disservice, but we were just a real good group with a really good experienced manager who kind of utilised that, and we had a real good bond. And there's a lot to be said for everyone working hard for each other, and really just providing success for the club. And the club believed in the group of players and the manager that it had at the time, and it worked really well. And obviously, that was the way I was going to get into the Premier League. You had to kind of see me to believe in me and what I could achieve as a player. And I had the belief from my manager at the time and the club that signed me in Norwich. And I'm glad I repaid that faith with getting them to the Premier League. So I want to see Norwich back in the Premier League. I think they should be in the Premier League. We got promoted as a group of players and fans and stayed up. I can't remember. I think we finished something like 12th, I think it was.
Yeah, right,
yeah. Was it 12th? Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're in and around it. We were about 10th for most of the season, and then finished 12th in Premier League, and that's where Norwich should be for me. I think it's a great club, and done right. I think should be right there in the Premier League.
And I mean, Paul Lambert, clearly the man who bought you, and you worked with him at Colchester as well.
Yeah.
So maybe to you, not that it was necessarily a surprise to everyone else, but I think obviously going straight from League One into the Championship, into the Premier League and doing back-to-back promotion, that's a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing from what you saw, it probably wasn't a surprise that he was able to do it.
No, I had other offers in terms of where I would go when I was moving even firstly to Colchester. And a large part of that choice and that thought process was knowing Paul Lambert's Champions League success. He's won medals, he's won trophies, he's been successful, international. My brother had worked with him at Livingston, and I had another couple of different opportunities of where to go. And having spoken to my brother, obviously, who'd been at Manchester United, knows what high performance looks like. He advised, go with Paul Lambert. He's got his eye on the ball. He'll ask a lot of you, but if you repay him, then you're going in the right direction. So it was very much in terms of buying into the person and the kind of the strategy of where he wanted to go, how he saw the ability to do it, buying into it. Spoke to him and kind of moved down, did my role in terms of how I played, and repaid his faith in me, and that kind of worked well. And still keep in contact with Paul Lambert now, the same as Chris Hughton now is on the other end of the phone, another good person I've met in football that's always there, willing to offer a bit of advice if you should need it, and definitely draw on some of those times working under Paul Lambert, working under Chris Hughton, even, and Dougie Friedman, the like, Neil Lennon, these kind of people that have been successful, won medals in their own careers, and just drawing on a bit of their experience. So yeah, it was definitely a great time in my life, signing for Colchester and then for Norwich. But yeah, it's you've got to look to the long term. I think that's what I'm doing now in my role. I look to the long term of what I want to achieve, and that was the same with Paul Lambert and joining. Where is he going? Where do I see my career going? And planning it. And thankfully, it took me to the Premier League.
Yeah, and I guess a key part of your job, as you mentioned, is about building for the long term and building cultures and that sort of thing, which is maybe a bit more of a buzzword now than it was back then. But clearly, that was an example, wasn't it, of a really good culture from what you've spoken about, the togetherness. You speak to any of the players in that dressing room, and they mention that.
That's it. Yeah, if you're in that dressing room, we had the best of lads that had been plucked from your League Twos, your League Ones. Your Bradley Johnsons, your David Foxes, Elliot Bennett's, your Grant Holt's. The people that were essentially, we were scrapping around. We were if you knew about the leagues, you knew about the players. But if you didn't look below the Championship, you wouldn't know about us. Thankfully, Paul Lambert earned his spurs at Wickham, knew about us, had played against us, and kind of saw the value. And I'm not being funny, we were pretty cheap at the time as well for what we were giving. So he saw the potential in those players. Not all of us very young, especially Grant, but especially myself, signing at 23, he could see the potential, and he wasn't afraid to get those players in and play them. And that's similarly. He'd draw on the likes of your Liverpools, your Danny Ayala, your Pacheco's, your Henry Lansbury. So throwing a few loanies of the right kind of build and the right mindset, and that is literally a typical strategy of mine now, is to do exactly the same as we're doing with Caleb, a bit of higher quality, younger lad that you can blood, but also we've got our own younger players here. We've got Carrow Redding's, over about 30 appearances. He's 21. Real exciting winger. Lucas Weaver, we put him on loan a couple of leagues down. He'd scored bundles of goals. He played the next league up, scored bundles of goals, and now he's fighting for our first team. So it's literally a blend and a mix. And you're right, culture wasn't a huge buzzword back then, but that is exactly what it was. And it's there's a lot to be said for it, having it right, and how it can spur you on to success.
Do you think that's the best football that you played in your career at Norwich?
I think it was up there with the best. I think what Norwich did, that was definitely the what we were doing at Colchester had it in its infancy. Obviously, the first game of the season just showed what we could do when we actually played Norwich of all people. That just showed what you can do with a so-called lesser team, but working for each other, against a so-called bigger, better team, not working for each other. And then that came to fruition with Norwich for a sustained period where we didn't fear anybody, especially coming to Carrow Road, and even on the road, to be fair, we didn't really fear anybody, because we knew we put the work in. Hard work, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, and we were working hard, and we were never let up on. Days off had to be really earned; they weren't given away, but everyone had a buy-in. And I think that spurred me on to when I went to Bolton. I mean, I just before I broke my leg, I got an Ireland call up for the Republic of Ireland, and that was due to those kind of strategies and those kind of beliefs instilled in me that I then utilised when I was at Bolton as well. So I think that would have just carried on, and it has carried on now into my career as a sporting director. The what I know and the desire, you've got to keep working hard. You can't ease off. If you ease off, if you've always done what you always do, you'll always get what you've always got. And if you want to drive on, and that's what I'll be saying to the people at the club I'm at now, if you want to get promoted, you have to keep pushing on and striving for more, and not let your foot off the gas, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, clearly there's so many about that, games and moments in that team that we could speak about. But I've got to ask you about that night at Fratton Park. I think you were cartwheeling at the end of it, which is how a lot of Norwich fans remember it. So. Yeah,
became a bit famous in the Norwich area for my cartwheels.
You still are, yeah.
It's a great time to look back, and that was for me. I can remember where I was on the pitch, who was next to me. The ref blew the final whistle. It was a lifetime's work from as long as I could remember of. I wanted to get to play in the Premier League, and I thought I was good enough to play in the Premier League. And I played for a lot of managers who I didn't rate, that couldn't see it, and then I played for a good one that could see it. And I think a lot of us on that pitch played like that. We knew we could do it. You just need the right person to believe. You need to believe in yourself first, and then someone else to believe in you and give you the chance. And for that opportunity, I'll be forever grateful, and it comes to fruition. And yeah, it was a great time in down at Fratton Park. Yeah, I'll remember that forever. And I'll also remember, Delia and Michael and what they did. Michael Folger as well at that time, really backing the club. And it's similar to the club I'm at now. You need the backing of the club. You need people who really do love the club and are fans of the club, and will drive it on with you. And if you can work together, you've got half a chance at being successful. So you have a lot of time for those people at Norwich, definitely.
Yeah, just a couple more. Clearly, again, we could speak about loads of players, but obviously it would be remiss not to ask you about Grant Holt and Wes Houlihan. I mean, those two guys in particular, what they contributed to the club. Obviously, Wes stayed for a long time after that as well, club legend.
Yeah.
I mean, how good were those two to play with?
Yeah, I mean, Holtzy, you'd know of him if you were in the lower leagues at the time, around League 1 and 2. You'd know about Holtzy's game and could he do it. As long as he kept himself professional, he had half a chance. And again, get the right manager if you got the buy-in from him, which we did. But he always had the quality, the goal-scoring ability. Didn't necessarily look the part to the untrained eye, but if you were with him, you knew the work rate that you do, and he would get you those goals that's so difficult to get. Wes by far and away one of the best ball carriers and clever players that you'd know about, diminutive in size but huge in terms of the dressing room, knowing if you've got him on your team, just give him the ball and he could come up with a bit of magic. David Fox had helped it tick along and run, and just there was so many to mention really in terms of hidden amongst that team were a lot of very good players that all complemented each other. I think that worked really well, but definitely Wes was a little magician, and we used to obviously have a chat about the Ireland squad, and they didn't change the team for a while, and then just at the same time, unfortunately I broke my leg, but he ends up getting in Ireland, and I was really happy to see him go on and get his caps for Ireland, which he deserved many years before that. But again, I think a little bit of football snobbery until you get right up there and stay in the face in the top league. Some of the internationals won't look at you, and finally they did for him, so I was made up for him.
Bang on, yeah. And I mean, just finally, I guess a word for the fans as well. I'm sure you felt loads of support while you were down at Norwich.
Yeah.
You've spoken about the soft spot for them. I mean, how good were they to play in front of? And
it's brilliant. I think they could see, overlapping fullback and wore my heart on my sleeve, but also, would deliver the crosses for whoever it was, whether it was Grant, whether it was Morrow, whoever it was. I actually, even though I came and ended up playing instead of Adam Drury for a large part, I had a great relationship with Adam, who's another club legend and a testament to his kind of character, the fact that he was always there to again give me advice as a younger player coming through, and really felt part of the furniture there in no time at Norwich, even just in and around the city, saying hello to fans that are stopping on the street no matter where I was. So yeah, really will look forward to coming back one time and hopefully saying a big thank you to them. When I'm next down, it'd be really good to see everybody.